Hey friends, Coach Tom again. This is lesson 2 of our beginner serve series. So before we get into the serve, let's actually go over a couple of rules, things that you guys need to know before you actually start playing this game. First thing, you get 2 serves, you get 2 chances, right? We talked a bit in the first one about how you've got to hit the ball cross court and into the opposite service box. You get 2 chances to do that. So if you miss one, it's called a fault. If you miss the second one, it's called a double fault, and your opponent will get the point. Another rule that a lot of players don't understand, the returner actually has to let that ball bounce. You cannot hit the serve, like a returner cannot hit the serve out of the air. It has to bounce in the box before they strike the return. And if you think about it, that makes sense, right? Because otherwise you would just stand at the net and hit every single ball you could out of the air and smash it and win every point. There'd be really no point in even playing the game. Now, after every time you guys serve, after every point, you're gonna change sides, right? You've got the little hash mark here, okay? This side, this is the deuce court over here, and this side over here, this is the ad court, okay? So you've got ad court here, deuce court here. Now after every single point that we play, we're gonna change sides. So I'll start serving on the deuce court. You always start every new game on the deuce court. So I'll serve from the deuce court, play that point out, and when I'm done with that, I'll step over to the ad court and I'll play a point from there. Make sure you guys understand the difference between, we're not switching after every serve, we're switching after every point. Remember, you get 2 serves per point, so don't switch, don't hit a serve and think, well, I lost the point. Remember to take your second serve if you need it, play the point out, and then switch to the other side. Now, you also have to switch ends of the court when we're playing tennis, because things like the sun and wind and all that stuff, those things actually come into play. You're gonna change ends of the court with your opponent or opponents at every odd total number of games. So if it's 1-0, you're gonna change ends. If it's 2-1, you're gonna change ends. If it's 2-2, you're gonna stay where you are. So total up the number of games that you guys have played, figure out if that's even or odd, and if it's odd, that's when you're gonna change ends of the court. Now at the beginning of a match, we've gotta determine who's gonna serve, right? So we do something, we call it spin for serve, and if you look, you can see there's a little arrow on the bottom of my racket. It's either up or it's down, depending on how you're looking at it. A Wilson will have a W or an M, a Prince will have a P or a D. Most rackets have something on the butt cap of their racket that shows you, that gives you an option, one or the other. So for me, we would spin it. I would say, what do you want, up or down? You might choose up. The arrow is pointing down, so that means I win the spin, right? So I win the spin for serve. Now my choice is to either serve, return, or choose side, okay? I can defer if I want, but there's really not much point in doing that. So I would choose, let's say the sun's over here, so I'm gonna say I want that side over there. So now you as my opponent, you get the remaining choice of either serve or return. The last thing I want you guys to remember is that the service box is the service box. Whether you're playing singles or doubles, it doesn't matter. You don't get that alley when you're playing doubles just because you do for the rest of the point. The service box only when you're hitting serves. All right, so let's get into the actual serve, right? So we talked a little bit about that kind of just bump, that easy 1, 2, 3 motion in our first lesson. Now we gotta talk a little bit about how to kind of control that ball and aim that ball when we're moving back and forth and switching sides so much, because it can get a little bit tricky. Okay, so the big thing I want you guys to think about is your shoulder and your hip, right? We'll kind of line that up where you want that ball to go. It's gonna be the same as if you were hitting a ground stroke, right? So if I wanna hit this serve this way, if I'm on the deuce court, that's kind of how I want to line up. A lot of pros will say, well, aim your feet towards the net post, but I don't think that works. Hip, shoulder, towards your target, right? So we're going to be a little bit sideways to the ball. I'm going to get my racket ready, make my toss, and move towards where I want that ball to go. Now, as you can see, if I'm standing over here on the ad court, that's not going to work, is it? Because I've got to go to the opposite box. So now I have to kind of turn my shoulders and my hips towards where I want that ball to go. Okay, and the last thing I want you guys to do on this is to step just a little bit towards your target, okay? Again, we're not terribly concerned about foot faults at this point, but just back up, right? Start a little bit further back. I've got no problem with you guys starting from a foot or so back. But we want to turn our hips and shoulders and then actually kind of move a little bit towards where we want that ball to go, okay? So let's take a quick look at what these serves look like. Okay, so again, it's the same thing. 1, 2, 3, racket ready, ball toss, hit up and out. The difference is, in our first lesson, we were basically just kind of standing here, just bumping it, really kind of basic and simple. But for now, we want to actually add a little bit of directional control and a little bit more pop to it. So hips and shoulders. Now, if I use that same grip, look where my racket's pointing, right? So I've got to actually change my grip just a little bit to get it going where I want to go. I may adjust my shoulders a little bit. Get comfortable. Stand somewhere that is comfortable for you. Racket ready, ball toss, hit. You can see I'm moving a little bit towards my target. I'll exaggerate that even more. Racket ready, ball toss, hit. Now, do I really want you guys walking through this shot and doing that motion? No, especially as we start to advance, that's going to really be a bad thing. But for now, the idea is let's start thinking about that direction and how to aim that ball a little bit. Okay, so one more time, racket ready, ball toss, and I'm hitting and moving towards my target. So that's it for lesson 2. Now let's give you guys a drill that you can use to practice these serves and to learn how to keep score. There's another video, you guys, that I'll link on how to keep score, so let's not worry about that and make this thing run 20 minutes long. But basically what we're gonna do is I'm gonna play a service game by myself. I'm gonna give myself 2 serves if I need them, and basically what it's gonna be is I'm gonna start here at the deuce court. I'm gonna say it's love, love, and I'm gonna serve. And if I make my serve, first serve or second serve, I get a point. If I don't make my serve, the ghost player, whatever you wanna call it, gets the point, okay? So let's take a look. Love, love. Also, you guys remember that when you're the server, you're actually the one calling the score, and you always have to call your own score first. That makes a huge difference, you guys. If I say 15-40 versus 40-15, that's a 4-point swing. That's a big difference. So make sure that you guys are calling that score correctly. Your own score first, then your opponent's score. All right, so it's love, love. Cool, I made my serve, so I would call it 15 love, and I'm gonna slide over here to the ad court. 1, 2, 3. So 2 things, you guys. 1, I missed my serve. So now what happens? Do I lose that point? No, I get my second serve. Remember, you get that second opportunity. So I missed my first serve, I get my second serve. The other thing, you guys, is that I forgot to call the score. So remember, when you start that point, you need to call the score. You don't have to do it in between first and second serve, but you do need to call the score before you start a point, okay? So I forgot to do that, so I would say, hey, opponent, sorry, I forgot. The score is love 15 or 15 love or 30-30 or whatever it is, okay? So let's go back and try that again. 15 love. Racket ready, ball toss, move. Okay, I made that serve, and you guys notice I've changed my position. I'm not standing like this anymore because I'm not on that side. I'm here, and when I serve, I move towards my target, okay? So I made my serve, it's 30 love, 30 love. I missed it a little bit long, second serve. Oops, I missed that one, so now it would be 30-15. And I would just continue going back and forth and playing in this manner to help myself practice my serves. The last thing I want to remind you guys of is that when you're playing, make sure you have a second ball, okay? Don't have one ball and then have to wander around and find the second ball if you miss your first serve. There is something in tennis etiquette, the idea of pace of play and tempo, and if you're constantly running around to get that second ball, it's not super, super ideal, okay? If you don't have pockets, have your partner hold it. If your partner can't hold it, roll it back to the fence, put it off to the side. Don't just lay it on the ground underneath you, because I know you guys are moving really well and I don't want you to step on that ball. So that's it. Get out there and try this stuff. See what works, see what doesn't. Remember, I'm your coach now. I'm here to help you guys build your game, grow your game, but you gotta let me know what's working. Ask me your questions, tell me what you think. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one.